Hi guys, I am Miss Landrin Hernandez Balandra
And I'm Jay and Rose and Togonon.
and we're from grade 9 SPA. Today, we're gonna talk about the music of the medieval, Renaissance, and Baroque period. So, in order to know about the music of Baroque, Renaissance, and medieval period, you will listen to our vlog. Watch till the end. Music of the medieval, Renaissance, and Baroque period. Medieval music was both sacred and secular. During the earlier medieval period, the liturgical genre, predominantly Gregorian chant, was monophonic. While early motets were liturgical or sacred, by the end of the 13th century, the genre had expanded to include secular topics such as courtly love. Medieval period is also called Middle Ages and is referring between the fall of Roman Empire and the Age of Reawakening and Discovery. The music of medieval period is based upon religious subject. Choir expressed faith through beautiful melodies, and by the 13th century, magnificent works of architecture, sculpture, painting, music, and poetry appeared. Many kinds of music were created during these Middle Ages. There are three examples: music for the knights, for the nobles in the castles, and the chants for the priests. Only the church music was preserved, but later on, they devised a system to notate and copy music. The church music spread and is taught to succeeding generations. Let's move on to the vocal music of medieval period. Gregorian chant. Gregorian chant is the official music of Roman Catholic Church. It was named after Pope Gregory I. Gregorian chant is also named as plain song or plain chant. It was set to sacred Latin texts. Gregorian chant is monophonic. It does not have harmony nor counterpoint. It was sung without accompaniment. Male voices sang in unison. And it was a chant passed along by oral tradition, but later on they were notated. Neum notation was used. Neum is a basic element of Western and Eastern systems of musical notation prior to the invention of 5-line staff notation. The Gregorian neum is written in a 4-line staff. Moving on into the instrumental music of the medieval period, the Troubadours. During the later part of the medieval period, secular music, which was not bound by Catholic traditions, emerged. Most of these songs were performed across Europe by groups of musicians called troubadours. It came from the word troubar, meaning to compose, to discuss, or to find. They performed chivalry and courtly romantic music. They played for both commoners and nobility. Troubadours was usually monophonic and sometimes with improvised accompaniment. It was originated in France and is written in French language. Troubadours. Troubadours were known as composer-performers. Their counterparts in Germany were called minnesingers. Their songs were about love, crusades, dance songs, and spinning songs. The notation of their songs does not show rhythm. There were also minstrels and jinglers, who were acrobat performers and considered the lowest social level. Four of the most important composers of the medieval period was Hildegard von Bingen, Leonin, Perrotin, and Guillaume de Machaut. A famous composer of the medieval period was Adam de la Halle. Adam de la Halle was also known as Adam le Bosseau, or Adam the Hunchback. He was a son of a well-known citizen of Arras, Henry de la Halle. He received his education at the Cistercian Abbey of Auxelles near Cambrai. Adam was destined for the church, but he eventually married. His patrons were Robert II, Count of Artois, and Charles of Anjou, brother of Louis IV. Adam was one of the oldest secular composers whose literary and musical works include chansons and poetic debates. He was a troubadour, a poet, and a musician, whose literary and musical works include chansons and joke parties, or poetic debates. In the style of Troubadours, polyphonic rondel and motets in the style of early liturgical polyphony. His musical play, Chou de Robin et Marion, was considered the earliest surviving secular French play with music. And his works include Le Jeu de Robin et de Marion and Les Chansons de Roi Cecil. Music of the Renaissance period. Consensus among music historians has been to start the era around 1400 with the end of the medieval era, and to close it around 1600 with the beginning of the Baroque period. Therefore, commencing the musical Renaissance about 100 years after the beginning of the Renaissance. So what is in the Renaissance? The term Renaissance came from the French word renaître, which means rebirth, revival, and rediscovery. The Renaissance period is a period of looking back to the golden age of Greece and Rome. The invention of printing in the 14th paved the way for a wide distribution of Renaissance compositions. The Johann Gutenberg printing press is the invention of printing in the 14th. It paved the way for a wide distribution of Renaissance compositions, with the emergence of the bourgeois class. Renaissance music became popular as entertainment and activity for amateurs and the educated. Lute was a prominent instrument in the Renaissance era. The influence of the Roman Catholic Church started to decline as the new music genre arose. Though sacred music was still of great importance, secular music became more prominent in the Renaissance period. This era was also known as the Golden Age of a cappella choral music. Other historical facts during this era is the discovery of the actual position of the Earth in the solar system by Copernicus. The invention of compass, creating a wider navigation not only on the lands but also on the oceans. And Martin Luther's Protestant Reformation. Characteristics of Renaissance music: mostly polyphonic, imitation among the voices was common. The use of word painting in text and music. Melodic lines moved in a flowing manner. Music was easier to perform because these move along a scale with a few large hips. Vocal music of the Renaissance period. Mass is a form of sacred music composition that sets text of the Eucharistic liturgy into music. Characteristics of the Mass: polyphonic, may be sung a cappella or the orchestral accompaniment, and text may be syllabic or one note to each other, pneumatic or a few notes to set to one syllable, or melismatic, many notes to one syllable. 5 main sections of Mass: Kyrie, or Lord have mercy; Gloria, or Lord to God highest; Credo, or I believe in one God; Sanctus and Benedictus, or Holy, Holy, and Blessed is He; and Agnus Dei, or Lamb of God. Madrigal is a secular vocal polyphonic music composition which originated from Italy. It is written and expressed in a poetic text and sung during courtly social gatherings. It is the most important secular form during the Renaissance period. Characteristics of the madrigal: polyphonic, sung a cappella, through composed, frequently in 3 to 6 voices. Famous composers of the Renaissance period. First is Giovanni Perloggi da Palestrina. Palestrina was said to be the greatest master of Roman Catholic Church music during the Renaissance period. Majority of his compositions were sacred music. He was committed to sacred music and has a keen interest in satisfying the desires of church leaders in the 16th century. Palestrina's Pope Marcellus Mass was held up as the perfect example of Counter-Reformation style. Kyrie, or Lord have mercy, is a part of the first two sections of the Pope Marcellus Mass. His career reflects his commitment to the music of the church. He received his early training and spent the majority of his career in various churches in Rome, including the Pope's Chapel. He was an organist and choir master at both the Sistine Chapel and the St. Peter's, which may have influenced the distinctively pure and restrained style in musical compositions. Palestrina also served as an organist in Agapito. His first book, Masses, became popular and was greatly appreciated by Pope Julius III. Palestrina has two sons but lost them both during the plague epidemic that struck Rome in 1570s. He had planned to become a priest but eventually changed his mind and married a wealthy widow. This improved his wealth and enabled him to pursue a musical career for the rest of his life. The second is Thomas Morley. Morley was born in Norwich, East England, the son of a brewer. He was a singer in the local cathedral from his boyhood and became master of choristers there in 1583. Thomas Morley was the most famous composer of secular music in his time. He was believed to have studied music with William Bride, an Elizabethan composer of sacred music. He received his bachelor's degree in Oxford and became an organist at St. Paul's in London. He tried imitating Bride in his early works but turned toward composing madrigals that show a variety of color, form, and technique. Most of his madrigals were light and easy to sing with some aspects of Italian style. His Musica Transalpina, a collection of Italian madrigals fitted with English text, was published in 1588 by Nicholas Young. Shortly after, he began publishing his own collections of madrigals and made significant contribution to the history of music. His works include Fire, Fire My Heart, Sing and Chant It, Fantasy, April is in My Mistress' Space, It Was a Lover and His Lass. Music of the Baroque Period. What is Baroque Period? The term Baroque was derived from the Portuguese word barroco, which means pearl of irregular shape. During this time, the arts highlighted grandiose and elaborate ornamentation. These were clearly seen in the musical compositions created by Baroque composers. Some of the great composers of this time were George Friedrich Handel, Johann Sebastian Bach, Claudio Monteverdi, and Antonio Vivaldi. New instrumental techniques and changes in musical notation were developed. Major and minor tonality was also created in this period. A lot of the musical terms and concepts that evolved in this era are still used today. The new forms is 1 binary -AB, 2 ternary -ABC, 3 ground bass, 4 fugue.
Characteristics of Baroque music. Melodies sound elaborate and ornamental. Melodies are not easy to sing or remember. Primarily, contrapuntal textures with some homophony. Dynamic contrast alternation between loud and soft. Harpsichord and organ are the keyboard instruments that are commonly used. Orchestra consists of strings and continuo. Music genre: operas, oratorios, suites, toccatas, concerto grosso, fugue.
Music genres of Baroque period. Number 1. Concerto. Concerto is a form of orchestral music that employs a solo instrument accompanied by an orchestra. Number 2. Concerto grosso. is a form of orchestral music during the Baroque period wherein the music is between a small group of solo instruments called concertino and the whole orchestra called tutti. Fugue is a contrapuntal piece developed mainly by imitative counterpoint. Number 4. Oratorio is a large-scale musical composition of orchestra and voices that incorporates narratives on religious themes. Unlike usual theatrical works, this is usually performed without the use of costumes, scenery, or action. It is usually written in a native language for the intended audience. Examples of oratorio are Handel's Messiah, Samson, Israel and Egypt, Bach's Christmas Oratorio, and Haydn's The Creation. Number 5. Chorale. Music compositions that resemble a harmonized version of hymnal tunes of the Protestant church during the Baroque era. Famous composers of the Baroque period. Johann Sebastian Bach. Born in Germany, March 21, 1685, and died in July 28, 1750. J.S. Bach came from a family of musicians. He was taught to play violin by his father, who was then the town musician in Eisenach. He entered school at age 7, where he was taught religion and other subjects. He became orphaned at age 10. His brother, a church organist, provided for him. Bach's beautiful soprano singing voice helped him to be accepted at a school in Lüneburg. A few years later, his voice changed and Bach focused his attention to playing the violin and harpsichord. Johann Sebastian Bach, age 61. In a portrait by Elias Gottlob Hausmann, copy or second version of his 1746 canvas. The original painting hangs in a upstairs gallery of the Altes Rathaus or Old Town Hall in Leipzig, Germany. Johann Sebastian Bach's works include Concerto Grosso, example, Brandenburg Concertos or Concerto Grosso. Masses, example, Mass in B minor. Cantatas, example, Cantata 208 and 211. Fugues, example, Fugue in G minor and Fugue in D minor. Works of clavichord and harpsichord. Or example, Well-Tempered Clavier, or one of his more well-known keyboard improvisations. Number 2 is Antonio Vivaldi. Born in Venice, March 4, 1678, and died in Vienna, July 28, 1741. Antonio Lucio Vivaldi, nicknamed El Prietroso or the Red Priest because of his red hair, was an Italian Baroque composer, Catholic priest, and virtuoso violinist. He is recognized as one of the greatest Baroque composers. His influence during his lifetime was widespread over Europe. Vivaldi was known mainly for composing instrumental concertos, especially for the violin, as well as sacred choral works and over 40 operas. He entered the priesthood and was ordained in 1703. Vivaldi was well known for giving the strings a major role in his compositions. His most famous piece is The Four Seasons. This composition was a series of 4 violin concerti depicting each of the seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Third is Georg Friedrich Handel. Born in Germany, February 28, 1685, and died in London, April 14, 1759. Georg Handel was the second son from the second marriage of a pastor. Despite his father's opposition, George secretly taught himself to play the harpsichord. At age 7, he gained access to a church organ and started to play. A duke heard him play and insisted on giving him a formal music education. Under Zacco, organist of Hall Cathedral, he studied counterpoint, canon, and fugue. Handel was known for his operas and oratorios. Handel became England's favorite composer. He had given English audiences music that in variety and interest equaled anything they could remember. Handel lost both of his eyesight in 1753. When he conducted his oratorio, Samson, a few in the audiences were unaware that he had lost his eyesight. The Messiah is Handel's most famous creation, and the very well known Hallelujah chorus is part of Handel's Messiah. The Messiah was written in the space of 24 days in London, but it was in Dublin when Messiah was first performed and became an instant success. So that's it, guys. I hope you like our video and I hope you learned about the music of the medieval
And Baroque
and Renaissance.
Renaissance.
So I hope you like this video and subscribe to our channel. And please tell me if you do have questions. I love you.
Bye!